Hello and welcome back to Hindustan Astrology. In this second episode of Celestial Satsang, I have a very dear friend who is a guest today, Ehsan Khazeni. Welcome. Thank,
Thank you
thank you.
so much for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. The pleasure's all mine. And I'm so excited to share with everyone things that, we've been talking about on our own, right? And I just feel like we need a deeper dive into what is Persian astrology. We're going to learn about your background, Persian music. And then we're going to take a look at his Bindu astrology software, which is very comprehensive. It doesn't matter if you do Western or Vedic, you will find something in this software that speaks to you. And so I'm very excited. And so first off, I would like for you to, tell us about yourself, your background. I know, you have an IT background and you were in music. How did um, how did you get started in music and how did that lead to astrology?
Well, first, actually, my parents both are musicians, and both actually, my mother performed santur, Persian traditional instrument. It's very similar to dulcimer, and my father is a singer. Actually, he trained to sing all the traditional uh, Persian music. So music was always in our family. My brother right now is a famous composer and performer. And then music was always in our family. And then I went to the college to study music, and it was the time that I didn't know anything about astrology. I studied classical music, harmony, and then years after that, when I started to learn astrology, I noticed that many rules of like the counting the houses and counting the distance of the notes, the four elements and four parts of the human song, uh, the seven notes and seven planets, 12 diatonic notes and 12 signs and 12 houses. And then there were all the relations between music and uh, astrology. And then one day I had a trainer, instructor, who told me that there is something called music of the spheres. And then I started to research and I noticed, wow, there is a uh, new world of music and astrology coming together. I was started to reading some Western books about the subject, and then in one of them I found a story about the Pythagoras uh, that how he discovers some tunes. And then I noticed that I read the same story in a Farsi book. Then I came back to the Persian books of music, and I noticed that there is another version of music of the spheres according to Persian music. Some songs, some melodies, some instruments, some rhythms uh, are associated to different planets and signs, and there are some uh, remedial music therapy according to the planets as well.
Mm-hmm,
So it
mm-hmm.
was the way I started to work on the subject, and then I decided to actually play the music of people. So, for example, I was opening a chart of someone, converting the notes of the chart, and playing with the piano, and it was really
Wow.
interesting.
That's amazing. And, we have something in common where, my master's is in ethnomusicology and I studied Arab music, which is very similar to Persian. It's cousin.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
so, we know, like I was saying before, the first time I heard Arab music, I just said, wow. I've never felt this way before. There was something about the way the notes are massaged, and how it affected my nervous system. I was like, this is amazing. I think I levitated off the ground about 5 feet. So, but it has a
Yeah,
very
exactly.
healing, yeah, it's very healing music. And so in Arab music, we have what is called maqam, and in Persian is, how do you say?
Yes, we use the same word, maqam.
Maqam. So maqam, for everyone that doesn't know, is a scale. And in Western music, we have what's called a pentatonic scale, which means 5 notes per scale. But in Persian and Arab music, we have anywhere from 9 to 12 notes per makam. And so those are the microtones in between those basic 5 notes. And this is how it affects your nervous system and makes you feel so differently. And I know in Turkish music therapy, different makams are used. Like if you're sick, you go to the tekka, right? You go to the Sufi house. The sheikh figures out what is wrong with you. He diagnoses you. Then he sends you to a room with a musician and he prescribes a particular instrument and a particular makam that is to be played. Let's say you're having migraines, right? And they say, oh, you need, the spike fiddle, right? Kamanche. And they play it next to your head, and those vibrations are going to shift your body. So, music in antiquity wasn't just about entertainment. It wasn't it actually, that was the second or third thing it was. It was about community, bringing people together, and ceremony, and it was used for healing. And so, when you understand these roots and you see how what he's discussing, how Persian astrology is an offshoot of the music in a way, or the music is an offshoot of the astrology. They probably came together. So, can you tell us more about the history, of Persian music, and um, because I don't think a lot of people understand the connection with Western astrology.
Uh, Historically, I can tell you a story about one of the Sassanid kings who had a very glorious horse. And then actually his life was somehow tied with a horse. So one day the horse dies, and nobody dared to tell the king that the horse dies. So the musician goes to the court and starts to play. After a few minutes of playing, the king starts to cry. And people ask, how comes that? And then he says, my horse died. So nobody tells him, and by listening to that music, he understands that his horse is gone. So this is one
Wow.
story which is very famous, and it was in the court of Sassanid Empire.
Hmm.
Uh, Another very famous story is about one of the musicians who goes to the court, and as he was not known on that city, uh, people do not respect him. Then the king actually, he wants to give some lessons to the king. He plays something and everybody starts to laugh. Then he plays something else, everybody cries. And then he plays another music and everybody sleeps and he leaves. So this is another story about Farabi, Abu Nasr Farabi, one of the uh,
That's funny.
musicians.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
So music of the spheres can actually affect our temperaments, and you can actually create some melodies to change the temperaments, change the humors, and change the mood, affect some parts of bodies according to the day you play that music, and according to composition, orchestration, and the rhythm. Um, a combination of the rhythm, melody, and it's like a planet sign house aspect together. So it's all the elements of the music together can create a certain kind of effect.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Um, Now we met in 2017 at the Sedona Vedic Astrology Conference. And so, there was a lot of informal hanging out and discussions. And you were telling the story of Alexander the Great and how he came to, obviously we know, what happened with, the war and the conquest and all of that and the burning down of Persepolis. But astrologically, can you tell us how did his arrival in ancient Persia affect Western astrology as we know it today?
Well, there is a very complication here, and it's really interesting. And I want to tell you about the astrochronological point of view.
Okay.
Uh, Something around 500 BC, we had all the knowledge actually about the new Babylonian era in astrology. We had this knowledge in Iran as well. And about 332, which Alexander conquered Persia. Uh, it was a, but before that, let me tell you something. It was a time that it was the time of great conjunctions in the air triplicity. It means that all the Saturn and Jupiter conjunctions were happening either in Aquarius, Gemini, or Libra. So this,
In
it was a
sidereal or
glory of
tropical?
Sassanid. It's all tropical.
Okay.
Okay. There is a very, as you mentioned about the sidereal and tropical thing, uh, it's we have some techniques definitely developed in tropical zodiac, and we have some techniques definitely developed in sidereal zodiac. And there are some techniques which does not connect to any of the zodiacs, so we can use them into both zodiacs. So both of the zodiacs are very valid, but we should carefully see which technique belongs to which zodiac.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So the technique of the great conjunctions belongs to tropical zodiac. Actually, we can see the conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn in any
Yeah.
zodiac, and we can interpret that by any way. But there is a cycle of 2,880 years that actually is the four 960-year cycles, and each 960-year cycle is uh, uh, a combination of 240-year cycles, and the 240-year cycles are 12 20-year cycles. So every 20
Mm,
years, Jupiter and Saturn meet. Then every 12 cycles, we have a 240
mm.
year cycle. And then we change the elements and we change the triplicities. And it's a very interesting pattern. But this pattern happens only in tropical zodiac. In sidereal zodiac, we cannot see this big pattern, but still
Okay.
the conjunction point can be interpreted in both zodiacs.
Right.
So in Persian astrology, that the air triplicity was in the time of Sassanid era. So the glory of Sassanid era started by the beginning of the air triplicity, and at the end of air triplicity, the Islam comes to Iran. And
Mm.
again, uh, we have uh, the air triplicity some 700 years after Islam. So in something around the 11th century, which is the glory of the Persian culture again.
Ah.
And right now, just in 21st December 2020, we had the beginning of another air triplicity. So this is again something new, and I can link that with the new revival of Persian astrology once again, and not
Ah.
only Persian astrology but other parts of Persian metaphysics.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Okay. Now,
So,
so from what I remember from the conference from 2017, when you're explaining what the Persian astrology chart looks like, is that it's a circular chart, right? And in the middle is the sidereal zodiac, and then around that is the tropical, and then around that are the comets and the asteroids. Is that correct?
but no, it was an illustration I used to explain about the charts.
Okay.
Uh, but we use actually, you are right. It's not the illustrate. It's not about the chart style we use, but it's about the concepts we use.
Yes.
We use both tropical signs, sidereal nakshatras, and the fixed stars. So tropical tropical signs are 30 degrees each, and we have sidereal nakshatras, and Then we have fixed stars and constellation, which are unequal. So there are three wheels, and we can actually use each of these three wheels at the same time. And interestingly, we also have tropical lunar mansions, 28 tropical lunar mansions, which is very similar to the 27 plus one nakshatras, but it's tropical.
Right.
And for a long time, I was suffering to how we can actually have both tropical and sidereal mansions, and there are some fixed stars associated to each mansion. And after a long time of study, I noticed they have two different mechanisms. So
Hmm.
actually, if we divide a year by 28, we get 13. So sun is 13 days in each mansion. So uh, the Persian lunar mansions are not exactly lunar. They are like the solar lunar mansions. They are also connected to the sun. So Persian metaphysics is totally based on the sun.
Yes, and if I am making the connection correctly, I think this is due to, ancient Persians were Zoroastrians, right? And they worship the sun god, right?
Exactly.
So this is why it's emphasized in Persian astrology to use the tropical zodiac. However, if I am understanding correctly, it sounds to me like the tropical zodiac was never meant to be used alone. It was always meant to be used in conjunction with the sidereal. And so I think that is the thing that people don't understand today is that Western astrology is just the tropical part that was taken from the Persians, and then they took it back to Greece and they added in their Greek astronomy and their own myths and things, and that's what became Western. But it came from Persian astrology, and tropical zodiac was always meant to be used in conjunction with sidereal. So they're both important, you guys. You have to understand
Exactly.
tropical because this is how the sun's light hits the earth, right? This determines the warmth of the planet and that determines our growing seasons. So, obviously, if you're going to eat, you need to understand the tropical zodiac. But we don't live on the sun, we live on the earth. And so, the way we view the night sky, which is the sidereal zodiac, is very important, you know, because we've got this quantum entanglement. And if you understand quantum physics, you know that nothing is in a bubble, right? Everything is connected to everything. And so how the light of these planets and stars hits us and how we view them is very personal. And so this is why I encourage everybody to study both Western and Vedic astrology, um, because that's what it is available to us right now. But as you're saying, there seems to be like a rebirth of Persian astrology because people are saying, "Oh, I see the connection here, and I see that this has more depth to it." Um, and as you were saying about Alexander the Great, and what I learned from one of my Vedic teachers, Dr. Katie Jane, was that when Alexander the Great got to Babylon, he said, "Give me your books." And they handed him their books. And of course, do you really think they gave them all of the information? I don't think so. So that part was kind of disjointed. And then Alexander the Great went down to India and he said, "Give me your books." And they handed him a bunch of palm leaves. So he wasn't sure what to do with that, right? And then the Indians, pushed them out. And so they never got, Alexander the Great never got to absorb the knowledge of Vedic astrology to bring back to Greece. And so this is the disconnect, you guys. And so this is why it's so important to have people like Ehsan here to enlighten us upon the history and the things that we don't even know about.
According to what you said, we have a book called Bundahesh. Bundahesh means the creation. So it's a book of Zoroastrianism, and there's a horoscope known as the horoscope of the world. And some chapters of that book is about explaining how actually it's a fight between Ahura Mazda and Ahriman. Ahriman invades to the world of spirits, and then Ahura Mazda and all the light creatures defend against the devil creatures. So in that book, there's a horoscope that the ascendant degree is 15 degree of Cancer, and all the planets are on their uh, deep exaltation degrees. Uh, Interestingly, on the day of day that the sun is in the vernal equinox, sun is at 19 degree of Aries. So it says something like a 19 degrees of Ayan Amsha. And at the same time, it's a tropical chart. So how comes it should be both tropical and sidereal at the same time? And then deep in the deep writings of the text, it mentions that actually I believe that this text is written at the time that they noticed that they need to optimize the zodiac from sidereal to tropical.
Hmm.
So it was the time that they missed some motions of the sky, and then they want to bring the two into one. So the text is very confusing for the researchers. So they couldn't see, is it tropical or sidereal, tropical, sidereal, tropical, sidereal. Many facts shows that it's tropical, and many facts shows it's sidereal. And at one point, it says that you need to learn the optimized version of the zodiac.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
this is actually we constantly should face both zodiacs and learn how to apply both of them at the same time.
Right. And isn't it true about 2000 years ago, the two zodiacs were the same and then they started to separate? Yeah. And so this is where a lot of
Yeah.
these ancient texts come from, is when the two zodiacs were the same and now they're separating, and people, they can't wrap their mind around it, you know?
Yeah. Persian astrology is very mathematical, and at the same time, it's not a Persian astrologer is not easily convinced to say, okay, this is this. I see this, so it's uh, my judgment. So they add all the judgments and they bring all the things and they compare tens of different conditions in the chart and they say one sentence. But that one sentence should be very concise and precise. So sometimes my students ask me to interpret for them like the Vedic astrology or Western astrology. So you see, okay, the sun sign is Aries, so the Aries is like this and like that, and you can talk for 1 hour for the Aries sun sign. Or the moon is, let's say, in Punarvasa Nakshatra, so the Punarvasa Nakshatra is like this and that, and all the uh, definitions of that nakshatra can be said to the person. But in Persian astrology, actually, we do not have describing texts for signs, planets, and uh, like mansions. We have some descriptions, some very short descriptions, very basic keywords, but it's not only about describing a chart, it's about, pinpointing the important events and important things in the chart. So even the approach is totally different. So
Hmm.
sometimes, some for people who studied Vedic astrology or Western astrology, their approach is very different. And the thing I tried these years is to teach my students the approach.
Mm-hmm. Hmm. So, how does Persian astrology use the sidereal zodiac?
But in Persian astrology, we first use the tropical zodiac. First, we actually study everything in tropical. And then we use the nakshatras and the lunar mansions in tropical version as well. But we see the nakshatras. Actually, this is the thing happened after the India uh, uh, Gurkhani times.
Hmm.
In the court of Akbar, it was all the Vedic astrologers and Western and Persian astrologers at the same time. So, at that time, Nilakanta or Jyotish Raja, uh, Nilakanta, the writer of Tajik Nilakanti, he learns Tajik astrology, which is the Persian astrology, and
Hmm.
delivers that in form of Varshapal to India. And then Persian astrologers also learn about the Vedic astrology, and then they bring also the many parts of Vedic knowledge into Iran. And we have some certain books for nakshatras, and there the Persian lunar mansions mixed with the nakshatras. So we have a very deep writings about the nakshatras in the sidereal version. So we can also apply the sidereal nakshatras into Persian charts.
Okay.
So
And
tropical
then,
zodiac and sidereal nakshatras.
okay. So, there's Arabic astrology as well, and they have what are called the manzils or their lunar mansions, right? And what I've
Yeah,
noticed is
exactly.
that a lot of these fixed stars that we have today, they have Arabic names, you know? Do you know that
Not only the fixed
segue?
stars.
What was the segue from Persian astrology? I mean, obviously, when Islam came to Iran, that was, a conversion, right? But do you know anything about Arabic astrology related to this?
Well, actually, when we say Arabic astrology, we should know that uh, actually many parts of when Arabs invade to Iran, conquest Iran, and then Arabic becomes the official language of the time. So
Okay.
many Persian writers, many European writers, many writers from any kind of religion, not only Persians, not only Arabs, Muslims, or Jews, many nations and many cultures actually write in Arabic, and many works translated to Arabic.
Okay.
So it's a big.
Uh,
We also have the 28 name of the mansions in Arabs for Arabs, and they use a very different kind of use of mansions. They
okay.
use the rise and set of mansions. So they look at the sunrise, and when they say the heliacal rising of the stars of a mansion, they say the mansion is rising. So,
Hmm.
for example, if the let's say the first mansion is called Shartain, so if Shartain, the stars of Shartain, uh, the are rising before the sun, they say Shartain is rising, and on the other side of the uh, zodiac, they say, for example, Qaf is setting, another mansion is setting there.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
they actually use the rising and setting of the mansions, and it's really interesting because it's solar again. And every
Mm,
rise and set of mansions is 13 days, as I said.
wow. And that would be called what we now call parans, right? Like, for instance, when a
Very
star is
similar to Parans.
rising, setting, culminating, or I don't know what's opposite of culminating, but underneath. Those 4 points are very important. Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, very similar to that. Yeah, but it's very similar to that, but it's not. It's only about the heliacal rising, rising
Okay.
with the sun, actually aligned
Oh,
with the
okay.
sun.
Oh, I see. Got it. Interesting. Okay. And something I wanted to go loop back to Persian music again. Before we
Yes.
started recording, you were talking about how they would take the string of the 12 notes and then apply that to the chart. Can you speak a little bit more about that?
Yes. We actually in music, in traditional classical music, actually we have a circle of notes, often called as circle of fifth.
Okay.
Uh, and then we have the notes around the circle. So in Persian music, we also use the circles, and we use the term circle for that. But because there is a basic metaphysical principle that the circle is the most complete shape. So the planets are moving in a sphere because it's a circle. And the sphere is intelligent by its own essence. So when we say the circle of notes, we start from one point in a circle, and then according to some, let's say, Euclidean trigonometry, they cast some lines between the nodes, and then we point some points around the circle. And then if you cut a circle from one point and plug it into 2 points, you have a string. You can play that a string. So you already marked some points on the circle. So you have that point like a fretboard for your instrument.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
by changing that, the placements, actually you get different tunes. Uh, so uh, even for the chart of a person, you can actually have, for example, ascendant or sun as a point. You actually split the circle, and then you can place the different planets on the fretboard. So you can actually see the distance of the planets can make different kind of notes. Some of them are dissonance, and some may sound consonants. So you can also harmonize them. Uh, you can actually use that notes and the harmonic notes like octaves, like the fifth, the fourth, and different kind of chords and different kind of harmonial things. And then you can also create a song playing that chords and that notes. And then you can also find some harmony points in the chart according to the music, according to the musical harmony. You can find some missing notes in the chart that actually make some harmony between some bad way and create a better voicing for the chart.
Hmm.
So it can be a very personal uh, music for mantra, for meditation, for treatment.
Right. And it's all for spiritual growth. It's all about improving those planets in your chart. And so the music is actually showing us how to remedy the chart. And this is something that, in Vedic astrology is, very big upayas, right? How to remedy the planets. But that is not a concept in Western astrology. They don't remedy the planets. And so I think this is where the knowledge of Persian astrology is really the bridge between the two worlds because there seems to be such a great divide today in Western astrologers and Vedic astrologers. And what they don't understand is that it's all important. You can't just
Yeah,
stay in one camp. I mean, if you really want to learn this science, you need to understand both because, the Persians were doing this for thousands of years. And so what I'm understanding you're saying is that the reason why fixed stars have Arabic names is because originally they had Persian names, and the Persian names were probably changed into Arabic, right?
yes, actually, we don't have many Persian names of the stars right now, but all the star names are translated to Arabic, and some of them actually have fake mythology. So I give you one example: the star Spica, for example. The star Spica its Sanskrit name is Chitra. It's for the nakshatra Chitra. So the Sanskrit name is Chitra, and the Avestan name is Spitra. You see the
Ah,
same Spitra, Chitra, very similar. And then Spitra turns into Spica.
okay. Wow.
And then that Spica turns into stomach.
Oh,
So
wow. Because it's in Virgo, so it's going to be dealing with health. I mean, in sidereal, it's at the very end of Virgo now. Because if you guys don't know, the fixed stars are always moving, right? And so now it takes about 170 years for the fixed stars to go 1 degree.
yeah, so it's very interesting. But Arabs actually, so etymologically, we can say it comes from Sanskrit chitra and Persian spitra, then turns into spika, and then from spika, because Arabs doesn't have the letter p, so the closest letter for that p becomes me, so it's because samaka instead of speka. So then stomach actually means fisherman. So it's the meaning completely changed. So I call it a fake etymology because it's like it's not a scientific etymology. It's like a popular etymology.
Yeah, it's
So they made
functional.
up things. Yeah, exactly.
Hmm. Hmm.
Sometimes in Farsi or in English, we don't know a root of a name. So we say, okay, so it's probably it might be from this root or from that root. It's
Hmm.
like a guess, but it
Yeah.
becomes,
And I've noticed a lot of Arabic words. Once I started, because I had to do 2 years of Arabic for my degree. So I can read and write it better than I can speak it. My vocabulary is not that great, but I can understand more than I can speak. But I noticed that when I started studying Jyotish, that a lot of Arabic words came from Sanskrit.
Yeah, exactly. So, for example, in Varshapal, when you say munta is simply the Arabic word muntaha. Muntaha, intaha means the ending point or the reaching point. And, or many other words that actually we think, or for example, in the itashala is ittisal,
Mhm.
ishrafa is insaraf, and
Wow.
dhaf, drufa is zaf, or kutta is qovat. Many of the Arabic words, very famous Arabic words, can be found in specifically in Varshapal in Tajik Shastra.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. So much information to uncover. I feel like there's so much that has been lost that now is being revived. So tell us about the state of modern Persian astrology in Iran. I mean, are people, like you said, you have students. I'm assuming you're not the only teacher. So, what's going on with that today?
That's a very good point. In Persian astrology, we already had the background, techniques, structure, metaphysics, everything was ready. The missing thing was the practice and the dynamics. We
Mm.
didn't have the dynamics of Persian astrology. So when I started to teach the Persian astrology, I first started to teaching some Persian astrological techniques. And then so in every conference, I started to introduce some techniques. And then at one point in 2020, when the COVID came, I stopped traveling. And it was a time that everybody was expecting to have some online courses. So uh, I started my 12-day crash course on Persian astrology. And it was really interesting because 250 people attended that course. Uh, and then it was a time that, even I didn't have my materials set because, it was very sudden. And I worked 24 hours a day to just prepare the slides and prepare the materials. And I did that. Immediately after that, many other people, and including these students and many other, asked me, "Okay, keep going on, keep going on. We need to learn more on Persian astrology." And I started my second course with the same pace, and then the third one, and then actually it became 150 hours of teachings so far. And
Wow.
I designed a 200 hours course in Persian astrology. Right now, I can say something like 2,000 students I have, and actually more than 2,000 students. But, some of them just attended one course. Some of them just studied one course and then they decided not to study more. But still, it's very uh, heartwarming, you know.
Yeah, well, my goodness. So this is all online. Yes?
Yes. And
Okay.
then it's actually we go furthermore. Furthermore, we actually uh, nominated Persian astrology as a intangible heritage of Iran in
That's
the
wonderful.
what is this? Yeah, so it's registered in Ministry of Culture as an intangible
Wow.
heritage. Persian astrology, Persian traditional astronomy, and astrological calendar. The Persian astrological calendar. We nominated these three as a
Wow.
cultural intangible heritage. And then I created my software and developed some astrological tools specifically for Persian astrology, for the techniques actually I teach. And these days, many people are more interested in Persian system. Before that, it was a guard, it was a setback for people who didn't know how much value it might have and what is the future of Persian astrology. I
Mm.
tell them a hypothetical situation. I say, okay, you come to my classes for Persian astrology, you go to another teacher for Vedic astrology, or maybe you study with me, or Western astrology. After 10 years, I deliver everything I have to you. Then what's your next step? if you learn Jyotish, you should go to either to a better uh, teacher, or you have to go to study the deep Sanskrit Shastras. So you
Hmm.
need to learn Sanskrit and you need to go to the Shastras. Um, and if you learn Western astrology, you need to study some Latin or uh, ancient languages to learn the
Hmm.
traditional version, or you should always follow the modern astrologers. But if you study Persian astrology, you can always do the, those things. And also, you have access to 20,000 Persian manuscripts available in the libraries. So as we have
Wow,
all these manuscripts, so it's uh,
that's
so it has a
amazing.
bright future.
Wow. Now, what was that third science you said? You mentioned three parts of it, of the last one of the Persian astrology,
What science?
the intangible heritage that Persian astrology was made. And you said there,
Persian calendar.
thank you. Yes. What? Oh, the Persian calendar. Okay. Studying the Persian calendar. Yeah. And, as you know,
Yeah.
in Vedic, we have our own Panchanga. So it would be the Persian version of that. Now, right now, I'm studying Vedic palmistry, and I'm wondering, is there a Persian palmistry?
Well, we don't have Persian palmistry like Ankh-Jyotisha, but what we have is a science of, we call it Ferasat. It's a science of appearance. So uh, they take a look at your appearance, about the face, about the shape of the different parts of your face, your eyes, your eyebrows, your nose, your lips, your ears, and your skin, the skin color, and the way you move your neck or the way you move your hands, and then even your dresses, and then they judge about that. Specifically, we use that in the horary system.
Ah,
So it's a kind of nimitta, like in a Vedic system, it's a kind of nimitta uh, that we look at the person. So it's so people, for example, see how to trust someone for some agreements or some contracts or not, according to the appearance or according to the body constitution
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
or
mm-hmm.
facial expressions.
Right. And in Vedic, they do look at the body. Obviously, it's more about the hand and the lines and the ridges. I mean, it's so involved. But one thing I did learn in Vedic palmistry is that if you see, I have a little gap between my two front teeth, this means you are a Gandharva or a celestial musician. And it's true. Everybody I've met that has this definitely is not from here. And we are here to
That's really
channel
interesting.
the music of the spheres. Yeah.
That's really interesting because in Persian music, people who want to play some kind of instrument called ney, it's a reed instrument, it's a flute, like a flute instrument. And then they have to play this by putting the head of that instrument between these two teeth. And some people may broke their teeth, and some people, push that to separate. And many people
Interesting.
are not everybody can play that instrument, but recently actually they changed the method of playing and they play with the lips. But in the older times, just in few decades ago, only people with the separated teeth could play that.
Wow. See, and here's more hidden knowledge. I did not know that. So do you see how much has been lost in between India and Greece? There's so much information that needs to be written down. So I hope that you're writing books.
Uh, One of my students collected my speeches and my courses, and it became something like 20 books. But it needs to be edited and translated. Because I told you, actually, I had 150 hours already delivered to my students. It needed to be edited and cleared because some parts are too cultural. It's a very domestic version of the knowledge yet. And
Mm,
to be delivered in the English world, it should be somehow either explained or removed from the text to be easily understandable for Western
Right.
readers.
Some things definitely get lost in translation. However, you know, those sometimes that's where the golden nuggets are, and so it's just like making a Persian rug, right? It's very detail oriented. Everything has to line up. Okay, so let's switch our focus to looking at Isan's software. He developed the Bindu astrology software, which you can find at binduastrology.com. So why don't we take a look at what you have? Okay, now we're going to take a look at the Bindu astrology software. So, what are we looking at here?
Well, at this point, you're looking at the main screen of Bindu, the main chart here, and some tables uh, below. And there's a box of information about of the charts. And can you see the box? A new
Yes.
window opens.
Uh-huh.
Okay. And then there are some small charts around that you can immediately switch. And some dasha systems are lists here. So if you right click here, you can get the Baba chart, 90-degree dial, and Rashi chart, Sarvata chakra, and also the Western wheel chart. So in this Western wheel chart, I actually added some Antiochia lines and Venus star points, or also Buhran points. Buhran is actually a Persian term used in medical astrology. So uh, you can see all of them at the same time or some of them. Uh, then you can immediately switch between the Western and Vedic view. Uh, you can come here in the view menu and change your zodiac, and also you have shortcuts like F3 for changing the zodiac. Uh, This is the sidereal zodiac, and this is the tropical zodiac, and this is the mixed zodiac. So in the mixed zodiac, you see that actually Mars is in Leo, but it still is in Pushya Nakshatra because Pushya is in Cancer sidereally. But here you see that Mars in tropical Leo is in Pushya Nakshatra. So you can use the tropical signs and sidereal nakshatras at the same time. You can have the transits, for example, here, then you can actually change the dates of the transits very easily down here. And for the aspects, for example, you can easily eliminate the uh, high range of aspects and just see the very more exact ones. And there are many other tools here. So, for example, for the Vimshottari Dasha, you can have many different variations of Vimshottari Dasha from Lagna, from Moon, fourth nakshatra, or Kshama nakshatra, fifth nakshatra, or eighth nakshatra, Utpana and Atana nakshatras. And then you can also, for some research reason, you can have the Vimshottari Dasha from other planets. These are not common, but some astrologers have them in their books. And then you can also change the duration of the year to different kind of year because it's very important because, for example, when we say the Venus Dasha is 20 years, if it's 360 days or 365 days, we have something like 100 days difference between the uh, different calculations. So it's very important to have the proper uh, year. And then this is only for Vimshottari Dasha, and you can also search for the dashas. Like I want to see when we have, let's say, Mercury dashas. So any kind of Mercury, either the Antar Dasha or uh, Pratyantara dashas or Bhuktis can come here. Again, you can, for example, have it into the third layer or fourth layer, fifth layer, and then, for example, you want to have in a search. I search for Mercury for the second layer. So it just gives me the every Mercury in the second layer only. Uh, After then you can click on every uh, dasha part, and you get the chart for the dasha, for the transit of that dasha, and then you have different dasha systems like Ashtotari, Charadasha, Chatushiti, Samadasha, and also Fardar, and you also have the catalog of the fixed stars. These are the fixed stars related directly to this chart, and then you can go to the star catalog and get all the charts, all the stars. You can search for the name, code, constellation, sign, nakshatra, magnitude, name of the stars, and then you can click on related to this chart and see all the fixed stars simply related to this very chart. Uh, you can also have Varshapal, and this is a very unique feature of Bindu. You can have this chart, all the Sahams and the planets at the same chart. Do you see that chart?
Yes.
Yeah. And then you can have the Vargas, different kind of Vargas. And if you right click, for example, this is a Navamsha chart. If you right click on the Navamsha, you can get different variations of Navamsha, like Parashari, Jaimini, Kala Chakra, Rashi Tulya Navamsha, and Navamsha Tulya Rashi charts. Then if you, for example, in the Sarvashtaka Varga, you can get the Sarva on every Varga. If you right click on this title, you can get a full list of other things you can have. Like, for example, let's say planetary nodes. Oh, sorry, this is a mistake here. Antesia, for example, or maybe actually I'm running a wrong version of Bindu on my computer. Uh, okay, this is the Panchanga. Sometimes as a programmer, I do a lot of modifications on my work. So this is the
Yeah.
Panchanga, and there you have a graphic ephemeris, and you can have the graphical form of the charts that you can actually hide and unhide and somehow bold the charts. You can zoom some certain areas of chart, and you can have different harmonics for Western astrology. You can hide and unhide some transit lines or natal lines. And going back to the main chart, you have a very nice profile manager that actually gives you the preview to the charts you want to see. And then in the view, you can have different chart styles like uh, North Indian and South Indian. You can also use the glyphs,
Hmm.
and then you can change the text above the planets. Here is the nakshatras above the
Hmm.
planets. So ascendant is Aridra, for example. Then you can change it to seven charakarakas. For example, here Jupiter is Putrakaraka. Or you can change it to eight charakarakas according to the system you use. And you can also use different house systems if you want to
Hmm. Hmm.
switch. And many other things, many tables here. If you right click, you can get the essential dignities. And you have the Gemini table and Nakshatra table, the system approach of VK Chaudhry, and the Tajaka table, and many other things. Actually, they are embedded everywhere in the software.
Mm-hmm. Hmm.
It's a very
Wow.
quick view.
Very comprehensive. So it really does. This is software for everybody. It doesn't matter if you do Western or you do Vedic. You're going to be able to use this.
Yes, exactly. You also have the notes here. You can write the notes for your chart, and you can also copy a chart. If I work, for example, on this chart, I can copy that chart and have two versions. You can have some charts open at the same time, and you can also play and see what's happened uh,
Hmm.
dynamically
Hmm.
here, or maybe you want to just simply check the transits like this.
Wow. Wonderful.
Thank you.
It's it's really mind-blowing. Yeah, this is and if you study with Isan, then he's going to be using this software and it's really that's where the beauty is that people can watch you using this software um because it's very different. Now, if people want to study with you, where do they go and um when is the next course starting?
Well, actually, it was a long time that I didn't appear in international societies because I focused only in my domestic activities. But it's a time that actually very soon I will introduce some courses. So I'll let you know as soon as I start one. The very first one will be a basics of Persian astrology that actually we study the basics of Persian astrology from the very beginning to use some concise and precise techniques according to Persians.
Wonderful. Well, you can definitely count on me being there. So,
Sure, of course, it would be a pleasure for me.
oh, I would love it. Um, Now, I have a question. And this is something that, my first foundational teacher in Jyotish is Joni Patri. And as she was teaching us, the lunar mansions and how the sidereal zodiac works and how the myths of the nakshatras align with the sidereal zodiac. And when you try to take those myths and use the tropical zodiac, it doesn't work. For instance, Regulus, the heart of the lion in sidereal, it's in the middle of, well, now it's at about, I think, six or 6.5 degrees of Leo, but it's the heart of the lion. But in tropical, the heart of the lion moves to Virgo. So how can the heart of the lion be in Virgo? So that's one of the things that always made me veer back to using sidereal. So how is that discrepancy explained?
That's a very good question. First, we should uh, dissect the different parts of zodiac. If we say, what are the nakshatras? If we go to the Parashara, Brihat Parashara, Horashastra, it says there are in the sky there are planets, there are graha and the nakshatras. Those which are moving are the planets, which are those which are fixed are the nakshatras. So
Mm.
the very first definition of the nakshatras is the fixed stars. But the nakshatras we use today is just simply the divisions of the zodiac, like the signs. And it was something around the book, around the time the book Lagu Parashari is written. In
Mhm.
Lagu Parashari, we see the first assertion that uh, sidereal zodiac is the main zodiac, and nakshatras are starting from Ashwini. So
Mm.
it's Ashwini as the first nakshatra. But when we study Parashara, we see that the first nakshatra is Kritika. So uh, if if it was always sidereal, the Parashara should also use Ashwini as the first zodiac, and if it was, or maybe he should start Kritika as the first nakshatra, but the zodiac should have started, the sidereal zodiac should have started from Kritika, but it's
Huh.
not the thing anymore. So it says that actually at the time of Parashara, Kritika, probably Kritika was the vernal equinox. And
Which
this is the
moves
thing we
backwards,
can think of. Yeah,
right? So maybe by that time it moved backwards to Ashwini.
yeah, exactly. So it was
Mm.
the time that they fixed that Ashwini as the beginning of the zodiac. And then the nakshatras are not exact. Actually, the today definition of nakshatras is that they are exactly 13 degree and 20 minutes. And by the way, we also dropped the Abhijit.
Right.
So if we have Abhijit in a very strange placement, I have an article, it's on my website, bindastrology.com, uh, about the unequal nakshatras, according to Aryabhata. So we have unequal nakshatras. Some nakshatras are around 19 degrees, some are 13 degrees, some are 6 degrees.
Huh.
So this is the very primary definitions of nakshatras. Uh, and we also have time-based nakshatras instead of the distance-based. It's on the actually a certain time that the moon moves in the during the months. So, according to all these definitions, assigning the exact fixed stars to the nakshatras often also fails. So
Okay.
it is very more close. The fixed stars are more close to the sidereal positions, but they are not exactly on that. So one
Mhm.
of the objections I have about this is that if you fix, for example, if you say, for example, Spica is the 0 point of uh, Libra, and it's very obvious for astrologers that okay, the star Chitra is exactly at the 0 degree of Libra. So the 6 degrees and 40 minutes of Chitra Nakshatra is in this side, and the 6 degree and two padas, 6 degree and 40 minutes are on the other side. But we say, okay, if we accept this theory, can you
Mhm.
show me the next 30 degree assigned with a certain star at zero, Scorpio? No, it doesn't happen. Or can you
Mhm.
show me the exact all the Yogatara, the fixed stars associated to each nakshatra, are exactly on the same nakshatra? No, it's not. So
Mhm. Mhm.
this is a problem we have. So we should actually think either we are talking about the trigonometry divisions,
Mhm.
or we are talking about the star uh, actually star ruled spaces,
Mhm.
or
Mhm.
we should see which are the actually basic divisions we are talking about. If we talk about the
Mhm. Mhm.
divisions of the space,
Mhm.
actually we miss the placement of the stars. And about the fixed star Regulus, as you said,
Mhm.
okay, Regulus moved to from Leo to Virgo. So what is it? Regulus is the heart of the Leo, and the heart of Leo, instead of being in the Leo, is in the Virgo. So what happened in the past few years to the royal families? The heart of the royal families actually dissolved into the commoners, into the ordinary people, into the society. So you see what happened in the British royal family. The Queen, after the Queen, actually, the Queen Elizabeth was the Queen Elizabeth, but then uh, the Regulus shifted, and then the royal family, some of them uh,
They lost their
separated from the
power.
lineage.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
The Leo power they're associated with went away. And actually, for beginners, if you don't know, the fixed stars actually move backwards because of the precession of the equinoxes. So, I'm actually writing a book right now on. I've taken 64 fixed stars and used their current sidereal position. And for a few of them, they've switched lunar mansions, you know?
Exactly.
So I had to reinterpret, well, what does it mean? Like, for instance, now fixed star Sirius is not really used in Vedic for the nakshatras, but it's what the most it's the brightest star in the sky, so we have to use the Queen of Heaven. I'm sorry. And so in Sidereal, she just went from Punarvasu back into Ardra. And so now that Sirius, the dog star, is in Ardra, which the animal symbol is the dog, and it's Rudra, the howler, you can definitely see how Sirius is expressing itself differently through this lunar mansion. And you might say, well, so what? I mean, it's still up there, it's still affecting us. But that's the point. The point is that the interpretation of these stars and planets is about human observation. It's not that this star or planet is, forcing this meaning onto us. It's we're noticing, gee, like when the Pleiades is high in the sky in April in the northern hemisphere, that's the rainy season. That's the weeping sisters, right? So it is our observation that determines the meanings of these stars. So now that they're going backwards, and some of them are going into different nakshatras, we have to reinterpret what these fixed stars mean. And so again, there's a lot of, back and forth between the two systems, but I feel like this is one area where Western and Vedic can come together, is in understanding these fixed stars. And when you see them, as you said, in both tropical and sidereal, they both have a meaning that is applicable.
And there's another very meaningful example of transition of Regulus from Leo to Virgo. Look at
Okay.
Donald Trump of 2016 and the Donald Trump of today. You
Hmm.
see the difference.
He's much more humble now, I think. All of these
Yeah,
hardships
exactly.
have made the lion more humble and less on his throne in Maga. And he's dealing with a lot of very detail oriented things. I feel like, yeah, I can definitely see that. So this is where I feel like people need to not stay stuck in systems, and to have an open mind and to be flexible, because this is all truth. And if truth were this beautiful diamond, right, and how the light hits the diamond is making different reflections, right? It's all coming from the same source of truth, though. It's just different ways of looking at it. And so that's where I feel like, because I did Western astrology for 30 years. And, it stopped working for me because I think in Western astrology, they try to wring every little bit of truth out of a very small set of techniques, and when you do that, you're going to be lost. And so when you start incorporating these different techniques from Vedic, from Persian, I mean, there is a Mayan astrology, and I learned that the Mayan astrology has 27 signs. Gee, does that sound familiar? This 27 nakshatras that we use. And so you can see how this, it's all the same source of truth. And so people really have to take the shackles off their mind and listen to different ideas, because that's the only way you're going to learn.
Yeah, exactly. There's a very famous quote of Alvin Toffler, the futurologist. He says the illiterate of 21st century is the one who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. So
Mhm.
the process of unlearning is sometimes very important, essential, that actually we should sometimes unlearn something and learn something else. And then when we actually put the two together, it can be a very powerful technique.
Yes, and personally, it took my ego 20 years, 20 years to accept that my sun in Vedic is in Gemini. You know, I couldn't understand how I could be sun in Gemini. Well, in Vedic, I'm Cancer rising. So that Cancer energy is there. It's just in a different place.
Exactly.
So don't do what I did. Don't do what I did. Just, humble yourself, allow yourself to unlearn some things, and you might be surprised at what you find. Now, for our last section of this interview, I want to talk about what's happening today, which is Saturn is going direct. And in Vedic astrology, it is happening at about 18 degrees of sidereal Aquarius, which is Shatabishak Nakshatra. And it's just traversed back into this because Shatabishak starts at 20 degrees. And so it's going backwards and it's at about 18. So this is the last time we're going to feel this energy of this nakshatra for another, 29 and a half years. And so, Shatabishak is the 100 healers. It's Varuna, the god of water, who is also the sky watcher. And so, with the 100 healers, it's about curing hard to cure diseases. And as we know, if you like, I have a rare genetic disease, and if you know anything about trying to get diagnosed for rare disease, it takes 100 doctors before you finally get the diagnosis. So Shatabishak is about, different healing modalities. And that's where the Aquarian influence comes in of things that are different, out of this world. So we're going to see a lot of new scientific breakthroughs coming through with this stationing direct here. Things will be coming out that they've been, keeping behind closed doors, but now we're going to hear about new inventions, and also, having things to do with ET and aliens and UFOs. All of that information is really going to be coming out now, and I think a lot of it is because of the new administration coming out. He's got some, Trump has some very different ideas about where he wants the healthcare to go, where he wants, he created the Space Force. We're going to hear much more about all of those topics. But in tropical, it's happening in Pisces, correct? So let's hear
Yes.
the Persian astrology prediction or forecast for Saturn stationing here.
Yes. So, first, actually, what we see today in Persian astrology, we have a long-term witnessing, which actually I follow these for a few years. And for I start from the con Jupiter-Saturn conjunction of uh, uh, December 21st, 2020. On December 21st, 2020, we had a Jupiter-Saturn conjunction exactly at the zero Aquarius. So it's a Saturn entering the Aquarius. It's a Jupiter entering into Aquarius, and it's not the age of Aquarius, but many people call it the age of Aquarius, but not in the term of the ages, but in a literal meaning of ages. It's actually a new era of Aquarius because it's the first conjunction in the triplicity and lasts for next 240 years. So in the next 240 years, the zero Aquarius is the most important point of the zodiac. And then at the same time, I talk about the zero Aquarius tropical. At the same time, Pluto is there. Pluto is right now is 29 degrees and 55 minutes of Aquarius, and it's there. And we see that huge shift of power, and we see how uh, literally the military forces have started to demolish some countries, and they force the force is very sensible and visible. And this is the thing. And I said, a few months ago, we had a conference and we were suggesting a title for that conference. And I suggested Set the Slaves Free. So it's it's about a rule in Persian astrology because, in electional astrology, we have elections for doing things. There are elections for going to travel, election for marriage, election for uh, learning from a teacher, election for going to the job for the first time, election for wearing new dresses, and also election for buying the slaves. It was a time that actually it was
That's an
slavery
ugly
was
part of
exists.
history that a lot of people don't, we don't want to talk about it, but in antiquity, it was unfortunately a reality. Yeah.
Yeah, but there is something really interesting about that, and it was the time that it said avoid buying a slave when the moon or ascendant is Aquarius. Because if you do so, the slave will uh, uh,
Run away.
stand
Be
against you or escape or will be rebellious. or something like this. So it was really interesting because Scorpio is sorry, Aquarius is a sign that slaves or uh,
The
let's say,
marginality.
what yeah, exactly. That those people do not tolerate the forces of the like the masters. So the slaves will be rebellious uh, when it's a time for Aquarius. So the modern slavery is the way actually it still exists, but like not like the ancient slavery, but in the modern slavery, like a labor uh, uh, workforces and even some kind of governments are still the same. So on the time of Jupiter Saturn conjunction, it was a square between Saturn and Uranus. And now we have a square between Jupiter and Saturn. So, and the square of the Uranus and Saturn at that time was the thing that I said, okay, it's a very challenge between the modernity and antiquity. So uh, we have the traditions and we have the modernity, and the modernity tries to overcome the traditions. But it's still the most powerful part of the tradition is the Aquarius. Aquarius is the direct stream, vertical stream of the knowledge, the direct stream of the uh, spiritual knowledge, which feeds the spirits. So it's the deeper part of the antiquity and ancient techniques and ancient knowledge. But at the same time, Uranus is in a square with Saturn. And right now we are talking about Saturn and Shatabishak, which is the Shatabishak is the heart of Aquarius because uh, as you said, it's Shat Abhishek, 100 physicians and 100 sources of uh, rain coming down, as Varuna said. So it's a point that turns the verticality into horizontality. So you see the rain comes down vertically and then it starts to flow horizontally. So it's a very important part of the. So we are at the moment we are at the deepest uh, point of the history in the contemporary history that we can still still channel the purest version of the traditions. So whatever tradition we follow, either it's Vedic tradition, it's Persian tradition, it's any kind of ancient tradition, or even some modern traditions, we can still channel the deepest truth from that point of Shatabishak. So when you started Saturn, when you said Saturn is Shatabishak, I immediately look at the window to see are the clothes are still there or not. Because because Shatabishak and Varuna sometimes appear in form of rain. So whenever we
Hmm.
talk about Shatabishak, it sometimes appears in some. It shows its presence by sending some raindrops.
Oh, wow. And it's
Uh,
the veiling star. So it's what's on the other side, it's my illusion, what's coming through from the other side. But in tropical, Saturn is in Pisces. So what would be the forecast today for that?
but uh, Saturn is in Pisces, and Pisces is actually a hardcore of the believers. So they're all it is the sign for the believers who have a deep belief in and when we talk about the belief and the belief systems, we also have the bias. So Saturn is to challenge the bias of people in this place. So there are very bright signs of the intuition in the form of intuition, in the form of receiving, in the form of um, channeling, and also in the form of questions that cannot be easily answered, the modern questions that cannot be answered by biased people. So it's a very challenging time in this respect. And but the Saturn is that it's in 12 degrees of Pisces right now. And this is the degree of, let me find this, if I have the chart here. it was a time that Saturn was combusted at the same around the same degree. I guess it was 10 Pisces, and that time Mercury was on the 16 Pisces. It was if I'm not mistaken, it was something around April or May. And then Saturn, when Saturn transited in the 16 degrees of Pisces, uh, actually, I was waiting for that. I knew it's coming, and it was an accident for the president of Iran who died in a
Oh, so
helicopter
you saw
accident.
that in the tropical chart. Wow. Well, and Pisces is about spiritual freedom. It's about the revolution of spiritual freedom, right? And so, in sidereal, that's where Rahu is right now, the North Node. And so we can see this, spiritual liberation around the planet, where
Yeah,
people are tired of the shackles. I mean, this is a prison planet, right? We're definitely on an energetic lockdown. What the source is really what the the question is, but we know that this has not been an easy existence for humans on this planet. And so right now what we're seeing is the spiritual revolution.
yeah.
And
Shatabishak is the last nakshatra ruled by Rahu. It's a
mhm,
Sattvic nakshatra ruled by Rahu. Uh, Rahu rules actually Aritra, Swati, and Shatabishak. And the first one is very Rajasic. The second one is Tamasic. And the last one is a Sattvic version of uh, Rahu Nakshatra.
And this is the fixed star Fomalhaut, which is one of the four archangels, archangel stars. And this is where we see, great talent, great the ability to take command as well. And so I feel like, when you look at Saturn going direct in both sidereal and tropical, you can apply both meanings to what's going on around you. And so this is why I want to encourage people to not limit themselves to one system, but to be open-minded and look at them in both, because otherwise you're going to be missing something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and we don't want to do
um,
that. Yeah, and ultimately, this is all um, astrology is supposed to be a tool that we use for spiritual growth and to help other people. And so if you are helping somebody, if something, rings true to them, whether you're doing Western or you're doing Vedic, that's the point. The point is to help people, right? And so, don't get so locked down to it has to be done a certain way because, as you said, the fixed stars are always moving backwards. The eight, Rahu and Ketu are moving backwards. We're gonna be applying different meanings to things. And as far as the ages go, the ages are um, dependent upon the tilt or the axis in the planet, right? Because it's how that is going backwards. So according to sidereal zodiac, which we use that tilt or wobble, right? We use the Ayanamsha. So we really don't start the age of Aquarius till about 2600. But in tropical, I think we're like what, very close to it. I don't think, what is it, like the next 100 or 200 years or something like that?
I believe actually the 2600 is it can be more close to the Aquarian age. According to actually what I calculated, some astrologers actually take some uh, certain, they take some other alternative calculations, which I couldn't find in the ancient times. So there are some modern calculations that say that it's coming very soon in
Hmm.
180 years.
Right, right, right. And that's all, do you use the true node? Do you use the mean node? But,
Yeah,
the point is that we are in the breakdown of the age of Pisces. And so that's why all of this craziness is going on around us because we have not quite reached the age of Aquarius. Once we get there, it's going to be much more spiritually free. The working class, the marginality classes will be more empowered. There will be more of a spiritual freedom to pursue different knowledge. And so you can clearly see we're not there yet. I just
Yeah.
tell
There's
people,
one more challenging thing.
yeah, we're the brave souls that decided to be born during this time to help with this breakdown of the old systems.
Yeah, exactly. And according to the conjunction chart of Aquarius, Saturn and Jupiter at zero Aquarius, uh, I had a prediction that actually I actually it's not a prediction. It's uh, like mm, defining a new vision, which uh, I said in the next recent future, the more actually the power will be taken from the governments and will be given more to the enterprises. And now it's very interesting because we see the appearance of AI, and we
Mm,
see that how powerful are the mega enterprises, the mega companies like you see, for example, uh, Elon Musk, for example, comes next to the president, and it's like a science fiction movies that the companies and enterprises have the power. You see some of those movies actually they are the absolute power, not the government and not the
mhm,
uh, thing. So we see that this kind of technology, like AI, also challenges the spirituality because you see actually all the powers we have in memory, memorizing things, in the mental powers, and you see that actually AI can do some parts of it very better. So it's a very challenging time to see uh, if actually human can resist uh, against actually losing spiritual powers or not.
Yeah, definitely, definitely interesting times out there. So, is there anything else that you would like to discuss, talk about? Is there something? So we know that your courses are coming out soon, and why don't you give us all of your socials? What are your platforms?
Yeah. Actually, I'm on Instagram with my name, on Facebook, and also my website bindoastrology.com. On Facebook, you can look up my name by Ehsan Khazeni. You can easily find me. And on Instagram also on Tashtar webpage or also on Khazeni, my initial name. So I'm very accessible on all the platforms. And my email is also ehsan.khazeni@gmail.com with my name.
Okay, and I'm going to put all that stuff down in the description of this video so you guys can
Sure,
go
thank you.
follow him. And when he has his course coming out soon, we'll get notifications. So gosh, this has been wonderful. Thank you so much for joining me today. I think this is going to help a lot of people and enlighten them upon some deeper knowledge of astrology that we've not been privy to before. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity.
Oh, you're
It's always
welcome.
nice to talk with you.
Yes. All right, until next time. Thank you. Bye-bye, guys.
Thank you. Bye.